Please come to order, and will the clerk please call the roll?
Anderson,
Present.
Oliver,
Here.
Ford,
Here.
Hager-Smith,
Here.
Mattingly,
Here.
Sutphen,
Here.
Watson.
Present.
We have two kinds of recognition to take care of today, and I want to soon call up our Blacksburg Fire Chief, but first, we're going to do a proclamation for Multiple Sclerosis Education and Awareness Month. So I will read this out, and then afterwards, I'd like to invite the chief up. Whereas multiple sclerosis is a chronic, often debilitating disease of the central nervous system that afflicts nearly 1 million people in the United States. And whereas it typically strikes young people between the ages of 20 and 40, affecting twice as many women as men. And whereas symptoms of MS can start as tingling, numbness in the limbs or nerves, loss of mobility, coordination, and vision, and progress to paralysis. And whereas the exact cause of multiple sclerosis is unknown, and there is no known cure. And whereas Multiple Sclerosis Education and Awareness Month provides an opportunity to increase education and awareness of this disease to assist individuals to lead more productive and satisfying lives for the benefit of themselves, their caregivers, their families, and the entire community. Now, therefore, I, Leslie Hager-Smith, Mayor of the town of Blacksburg, Virginia, do hereby recognize the month of March 2024 as Multiple Sclerosis Education and Awareness Month, and I call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens. So that is our proclamation for this evening, and now I would very much like to invite Chief Smith up for special recognition of recent events.
All right, if they all come up with.
Oh, yes, however you would like to.
Okay. Andy Harper, CJ Linares, Fred Linkus, Greg Poland, and Pam Linkus Poland. That's our president, Jody Robinson.
Hi.
That's a good evening. Thank you for letting us be part of your meeting tonight to recognize these 5 individuals for their heroic actions last December. So what makes these individuals stand out? Last year, the National Fire Administration says that there were over 1.4 million fires in the United States. And in those, 2,160 people died. If it not had been for the action of these 5 individuals, there would have been one more number added to that total. And when you watch the TV shows, you see all kinds of people making rescues and everything's all glorified and all that. It's a fact. It doesn't really happen all that often. And it's not stuff that real fire departments are doing all the time. And in the 29 years I've been with the fire department, I know of twice that somebody had rescued a civilian before the fire department arrived. Chief Anthony Wilson and his patrol shift did it one night several years ago. And the second time that I'm aware of was on Christmas Eve this year. And these 5 individuals saved the lady's life. And just for a reference, in that same time, in those 29 years here in our coverage area of Montgomery County, 6 people have lost their lives in fires. So kind of skewed really in the wrong direction. So brief description of what happened. So Christmas Eve, Andy and Fred and Greg and Pam were enjoying Christmas dinner at Pam and Greg's house. Fred and Greg's pagers go off, and they realize that they're sending them to a structure fire across the street from their house. They look out, there's fire coming out of the roof, and they realize that there's an elderly woman that lives there by herself. And when everybody gets over there, CJ was up the road visiting family. He comes down. They all gather there and realize that they know there should be somebody there, and there's nobody out. There's nobody in the front yard. And the unit started marking her out, and dispatch says that they're talking to an elderly female inside that's unable. These individuals went inside. Smoke conditions were beginning to get very bad in there. And I was the first one to get there with the fire department other than Fred and Greg. And when I got there, they had her on the front porch, got her to a safe place. I went back to shut the door, and flames were rolling from the ceiling to the floor in the living room there. So there's no doubt in my mind, if it wasn't for the actions of these 5 individuals, this lady would have lost her life that night. And so the fire department would like to present them with an above and beyond award. And the award reads, Above and Beyond Award presented by Blacksburg Volunteer Fire Department in recognition of your courageous actions during an emergency situation on December 24th of 2023. At great risk, you came to the aid of a fellow citizen with dedication and diligence, saving a human life. Andy Harper. CJ Linares. Fred Linkus. And Pam Linkus Poland.
Yeah.
And Craig Poland. So thank y'all for your time and allowing us to do this during your meeting tonight.
Thank you for everything that you do. We will move on now to the consent agenda, and that includes approval of town council minutes for January 30, February 6, and February 13. The donation of surplus vehicle to Newport Fire Department, and the approval of town council strategic goals. What is council's pleasure on the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Oliver?
Aye.
Ford?
Aye.
Hager-Smith?
Aye.
Mattingly?
Aye.
Sutphen?
Aye.
Watson?
Aye.
Anderson?
Aye.
Give people just a minute here to chambers. Public hearings, we have none this evening, but we do have a moment for citizen comments, and I would like to invite anyone up who would like to speak to council on the topic of their choosing to come forward and to state your name and your address.
Hello. Is this a mic?
That's a mic, yeah.
Could I also use this or?
We can hear you very, you don't have to lean over.
Okay.
We can hear you very well.
My name is Zachary Weiss. I live at 1003 South Main Street, Blacksburg, Virginia, 24060. And I want to propose an idea, but ask a question first. Does the town zoning supersede homeowners associations? Like the homeowners associations have to comply with town zoning for rental properties or residential homes. Is that correct?
I can, as the town attorney, I can talk to you after the meeting if that you'd like. Or is that, or do you need to know the answer before you go on?
I guess it's just a question that I'm just asking. I don't really need to know the answer, but I appreciate it. Thank you. So I think some people, especially Americans that drive cars and know about climate change, know that their polluting is like, they feel like they have to pollute in order to get to work or something like that. So I've thought of an idea about letting people plant fruit and nut trees in their yards and making that something that homeowners associations would be incentivized to comply with. So these are like, I feel like if you plant a fruit tree, it's already going to give back. 3 to 5 years, 3 minimum, you can have fruit coming out in the summer. So imagine if every single family household had a fruit or nut tree in their yard. Yards already get full sun. Typically, depending on where you are, these trees will produce and become very productive within 3 years. And this can be assisted by Virginia Tech, the school that supports this town. And there's a big agroforestry and agricultural community within the school already that would love to help out. Uprosum is the school's motto. So there's I looked at the Virginia Co-op Extension's website for native fruit and nut trees. Of note, I'll just name, there's 12 of them: American plum, black walnut, serviceberry, persimmon, red mulberry, blueberry, black raspberry, blackberry, American hazelnut, elderberry, pawpaw, and hickory. These are all trees that people recognize and would probably enjoy to be able to harvest from in 3 years. Now, if these are family homes, their kids would learn all this stuff and they'd be able to bring that forward, and we'd be able to make great change in our society. It could become a town holiday where the town gives everyone a free tree or bush. Each homeowner could perhaps fill out a form prior to the day and get a tree or bush delivered. I'd love to see some sort of changes that would help combat our polluting, and I think that the town should totally consider this idea, and I'm free to talk about this later. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'm sure any one of us would be happy to speak with you about it. The town does have a town-sponsored arboretum. So we cultivate trees on a regular basis that we plant. We have a tree cover policy. But yes, any of us would be happy to speak with you about that at another time.
Sweet.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to speak?
Heather Nicholson, 3450 Evergreen Trail. Good evening. I am a founding member of the Montgomery County Review Council, a collective of community members in Montgomery County, Virginia, committed to promoting equity in our grassroots approach to preserving the diverse history and culture of the county. As a grassroots initiative in alliance with the Christiansburg Institute, we have been able to educate, advocate, and raise awareness of the significance of inclusive social narratives. MCCRC hosted a cultural preservation webinar in July 2023 and recently launched a speaker series to elevate community conversations about historic preservation. Our first event at the Lyric Theater featured historian Jordan Bell, who highlighted the rich history of African Americans in Roanoke and the intersections with our county. Our next speaker in March from Virginia Humanities, Carice Luckbrimmer, will advance the conversation through exploring family roots and genealogy. When MCCRC first formed in response to the underdeveloped history and underpreservation of St. Luke's and Oddfellows Hall, and the concern about the care of the African American artifacts at the Blacksburg Museum, we invited the town to honor the deed, to ensure the cultural competencies of the management responsible for this cultural preservation, and to make an equitable assessment of funding to St. Luke's and Oddfellows Hall. As the council considers its strategic priorities, members should recognize that a sense of belonging begins with inclusion. Who gets to be included and who is excluded. And MCCRC's efforts unites expertise and passion for cultural preservation, research, grant writing, collections care, digital archiving, while promoting the full story of our shared history. Yet questions remain for the funding of the Blacksburg Museum and Cultural Foundation. How will issues of equity, transparency, and accountability towards St. Luke's and Oddfellows be addressed? Will the deed be honored? And what cultural expertise is being considered in this important work? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again. My name is Christine King. I am a resident of Montgomery County and more so specifically the Nelly's Cave community. So I have a request that a report on the Blacksburg Museum on their efforts to preserve the St. Luke and Oddfellows Hall and related archival collections. I'm also working with Mark Vernil and Carol Davis on a town committee, along with the St. Luke and Oddfellows Hall Museum Committee from the Blacksburg Museum Cultural Foundation. On January 29th, I had sent an email to Rhonda and Jim reading if they could please answer what roles and commitments are expected of the committee that I was with on the museum. And if I could also have a copy of the bylaws and if there's anything else that I should be aware of, because I think that it would help me out with determining why I was on that committee. As you know, I've been here before with questions and this is their way of answering that. And my first email with the request of my expectations on the committee and the bylaws was sent to Jim Rakes on December 4th. So that's 2 times I've tried to reach out and have not gotten a response as to my role in the committee that they've assigned me to. But in addition, so I'd like to request for the town to include, preferably in writing, in their report, the distinction between the two committees that I've mentioned, one with Mark Vernil and the other one with the museum themselves, and their purposes as they relate to the deed of the gift of to the deed of gift to the Oddfellows Hall. So as a reminder, the deed of gift condition states in letter D that the town will form a subcommittee of the Blacksburg Museum that will consist of members of the organizations that built the Oddfellows Hall and or their descendants, who is me, and representatives from the community, others who have not been included in these committees that I've actually requested that they be added, interested in the preservation and presentation of the history of the Black community, whose charge will be to advise the museum committee, develop programs, and raise funds to supplement operating and maintaining the Oddfellows Hall. Which is funny because when it says that, you know, we're supposed to raise funds to supplement and operate and maintain the hall, the most recent event that they had was the soul food sampling. And when I questioned Rhonda Morgan of how much money would be raised for that event, she told me that the event was not intended to raise money for the hall. So with these 3 events that they are given a year, like where are you actually honoring the deed and raising money for these events? Like maintaining the hall. I'm confused. Lastly, I'd like to mention that there is a new board inside of the hall that was posted by Richard Baldwin, one of their most recent hires at the museum. And with that board, he has mentioned a story and a picture of a white man that used to rent the hall out. To me, it's unacceptable, and it reiterates how imperative it is to have someone of cultural and museum competence in the position to lead St. Luke and Oddfellows Hall. Because if you ask me, a more appropriate story to actually put in a historically Black building would be maybe the 3 people that signed over the deed to the town. So like Aubrey Mills, Beatrice Walker, and there was one more off the top of my head. I can't think of his name, but if y'all had posted him inside that hall, that would make more sense than someone who just randomly rented it out to make details. So I ask you all to look into the 1-year agreement that you all have signed with the museum and see what changes have actually been made to, I guess, honor the deed of gift more so.
Thank you. All.
My name is Jody Daniels, 909 Allendale Court, Blacksburg. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about the artifacts associated with the 1906 building, which is known as the St. Luke and Oddfellows Hall. The building was deeded to the town in 2005 by representatives of the Blacksburg African American community. The Blacksburg Museum and Cultural Foundation at this moment holds an operating agreement with the town. Last March, the priceless African American artifacts relating to the hall were evaluated through the Conservation Assessment Program. We call it the CAP grant. This grant was given by the Institute of Museum and Library Sciences, IMLS. As part of the IMLS program, the checklist that was provided in the 2023 report should be reviewed and a follow-up written report sent to the IMLS very soon. Why is this important? It is considered best management practice for museums. In the language of IMLS, the follow-up report provides evidence that the museum is facilitating the development of a long-range preservation plan and serves as a fundraising tool for future collection projects. Because the Blacksburg Museum enjoys a hefty yearly grant of over $100,000 public money, which there are no other nonprofits that I know of that enjoy that, it is not too much to ask for transparency and accountability. I ask that the Town Council request this follow-up report to be submitted by May 1 and made public. This should be done prior to the signing of the 2024-2025 operating agreement with the museum. I would like to note that the Conference of Virginia Association of Museums will be held in Blacksburg next spring. This is the first time this has ever happened. Professionals will be visiting all the museums in the area, and all will be on display. Also, as spoken about, on March 28th, at the Lyric, Carice Luck Brimmer from the Virginia Humanities will honor Women's History Month at the Lyric with a presentation Reclaiming History Through Preservation and Genealogy, One Woman's Story. Hope you will attend. If you need information about that, it's on the Christiansburg Institute website. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Joselyn Hilderbrand. I live in Blacksburg. I'm at 1725 Sage Lane. I'm here in my position as a volunteer for MCCRC, the Montgomery County Community Review Council, and Christiansburg Institute. I wanted to ask that the benchmarks for evaluating the Blacksburg Museum's management of St. Luke and Oddfellows Hall be made public and to know what they are. I'm not sure that they've been outlined clearly, and I want to know what's going to allow them to get the funds signed, the contract signed to them later this year. I'm concerned that they're not currently showing improvement. They're not centering directly affected voices. A lot of voices have been excluded. They're not restoring the building further. And they're not bringing in Black vendors to run events like the Soul Food event. So that concerns me. I also wanted to invite the Town Council and Museum Management to attend the sort of event that would be great to see the museum host in the future. Like was mentioned, we have Carice Luck Brimmer speaking at the Lyric on March 28th at the Lyric. It's entitled Reclaiming Our History Through Preservation and Genealogy, One Woman's Story, and it is hosted by MCCRC and CI. We are excited that the Virginia Tech Center for Humanities is a co-sponsor. This event will highlight ways to advance the cultural preservation of African American history through exploring family roots and genealogy. She's a great storyteller, what's more, and her work is very interesting. We need to be telling these stories, and I hope you'll join us. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak during public comment? Seeing no one, I'll close public comment. Do we have any unfinished business this evening? None. New business? Council announcements.
I have a couple. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that our local League of Women Voters has produced a voter guide, and I think it's fresh off the press in the last week or two. There are a few copies out in the lobby, and there's plenty more where that came from. It explains the presidential primary, state primary, general election, how you can go about getting registered. Certainly, you can find all that online at our local league's website. But again, if you'd like to have a paper copy, they're out in the lobby, and they're just packed full of good information. One thing at our council retreat that we discussed a lot is how can we more engage the public in our government business and making our community better. And many people probably saw the article that was in the Roanoke Times recently about the town seeking views on affordable housing. But in case you don't catch the Roanoke Times, I just want to remind everybody tonight. So our Blacksburg Housing and Community Connections Office is inviting our residents to review and comment on the proposed draft of the 2024 Annual Action Plan. And this is for the Home and Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG programs. A draft of this annual action plan can be viewed online. It can be viewed in person at our staff's office, 303 Wilson Avenue. A hard copy is also found at the Blacksburg Library over here on Miller Street. People can participate in this public comment period in a number of ways. There's an in-person meeting on Wednesday, March 6th from 4 to 5 p.m. at the staff office, 303 Wilson Avenue. There will also be a live Zoom call that same evening. So that's Wednesday, March 6th from 6 to 7. So you don't have to leave your house, right, to participate for the 6 to 7 time. And if you'd like a link to that Zoom call, you just call our staff's office at 540-443-1615. Again, that's 540-443-1615. So again, if anyone would like to participate in this housing, affordable housing info session and input session, please feel free to do so. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Along that same theme of citizen engagement, I believe this is our first council meeting that's been live streamed on YouTube. So for our citizens who are watching this on YouTube, thank you for joining us today. You can subscribe to notifications by going to youtube.com/blacksburggov, so you can get a notification when we have meetings and watch it on there as well. And then, as always, all of our meetings are recorded. You can find it on the town website as well.
Like to say I'm particularly excited about our entrance into the 21st century with YouTube streaming today. It's very exciting. And continuing what Councilwoman Anderson has said, Super Tuesday is next Tuesday, so you can still vote early in either the Democratic or Republican primary through this weekend. And I had the honor of attending the YMCA's 150th anniversary celebration last week. And so I want to direct a little bit of attention to the good work that the YMCA is doing here in Blacksburg and on Virginia Tech's campus. If you're not familiar with the work that they're doing, it's a lot more than just the thrift store. So it was an educational week for me last week. And I appreciate the work that they've done to serve our community.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Seeing none, we are then adjourned.